Now, when I tell you this, you're not going to believe it because you're looking here at a 73-year-old geezer and you're thinking, oh, that man, look at him. He's old. Well, that's true, but I haven't always been old. And way back in 1971, I met this pretty girl named Sheila. And you want to know something? I talked that pretty blonde-headed girl into marrying me. And 8 days after we got married, we moved into the Chateau Apartments down off the Rockmart Highway in Rome, Georgia. Oh, why, I think we moved in there because the day we were visiting trying to find some place to live, it was nearly 100 degrees outside. And we went in some beautiful old downtown apartments, but they weren't air conditioning. But those brand new Chateau Apartments were air conditioned. It was so comfortable, we decided that's where we'd start off our living. And we did. We rented apartment J10 in the Chateau Apartments. Now, those of you that know me know I love the great outdoors. I mean, here I am at the Arrowhead Wildlife Management Area up here where I work in retirement as a storyteller naturalist. And I love the outdoors. You know I wasn't going to be happy in apartment J10. I just think about that. If there's an apartment J, there must have also been an apartment building A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I. That makes 10 apartment buildings right there. And if there were, and we were in J10, well, if there were 10 apartments in all 10 of those buildings, 10 times 10, last time I figured, was about 100 apartments. Now, was that the sort of place this old outdoors guy wanted to live? No. So right off, as soon as we moved in, we started looking for someplace else. Every Sunday afternoon, we'd look through the Rome News Tribune, want ads. And it wasn't until the next spring that we opened up the Sunday paper, and there in the middle of the want ads was a big, in great big letters, it said log cabin. Well, I had to look at that. In Chubbtown. I knew where Chubbtown was. It was down the Cedartown Highway there, real close to Booger Holler. I knew about Chubbtown. I thought, we got to go see that. So Sheila and I hopped in our car. It was, we called him Sam. Named him after Sheila. Sheila Ann Matthews was her name, S-A-M. So named my car Sam after my girlfriend. We jumped into that car and drove off down toward Booger Holler. All the way down Booger Holler Road till we passed Lions Bridge Road, past Raymond Road, till we got to little Jim Shack Road, little dirt road went up over a little mountain there. And down the other side to where it met Chubbtown Road, and then down Chubbtown Road till we got to the Chubbtown Cemetery. We were told to look across the road from Chubbtown Cemetery, and we'd see a little path with a mailbox next to it and a for sale sign. And we found it. We were at the right place. And we took off bouncing down that driveway. It was about, more than a quarter of a mile long. Went across a little field and then into some woods. And we got into the woods and there was a mud puddle in the middle of the driveway and two beavers in that driveway. I don't know what they were doing in that driveway because it wasn't nighttime yet. And they're supposed to be nocturnal or, well, at least crepuscular, which means they like to be out just at dawn and at dusk. And here they were out in there. We had to wait for them to get out of that puddle before we go on down that drive. And when we went around a little curve and came out of the woods on the other side, it was just like the Lord was shining a spotlight down from the heavens onto this little log cabin sitting up on the side of the hill overlooking a beautiful little creek. The creek was real flat and slow right there, almost like a little pond. And when I looked down at that creek, I could see swimming through that creek a great big old garfish. Y'all know about garfish? Woo, they're strange looking critters. They look like something that ought to live back at the time of the dinosaurs. They're about half snoot with great big old teeth in their jaws. I wanted to get down there and catch that rascal. I was already sold on the place. I didn't need to go inside. But we did. We climbed up the stone steps from the driveway and up more stone steps to the porch of that little cabin. There was a great big old rock chimney on this end, and then that screened in front porch all the way across the front overlooking the creek. We opened that screen door, walked about halfway across the porch to the front door, and went in that front door. It was just one big old room. Not very big, really, but one room cabin with a couple of windows at the front and the door, a couple of windows at the side, that big old beautiful fireplace on one end, a couple of windows back over here that didn't go outside but went into another little room. When we investigated, we found they built on a little shed at the back of that one-room cabin to add a tiny little kitchen and a tiny little bath with a little connector room where the hot water heater was. That was all there was to that house. That's all there was to that little house. But we were in love with it, and we moved in. We signed on the dotted line and paid $8,000 for our first house. I'll bet there are not many of you that can say that. Wow, $8,000 for our first house. And we started moving in. It took us several days to move things down from the apartment to that cabin. And we didn't move everything in until the Saturday after we closed on it. And that day, we came down with our last truckload early in the morning and set to work straightening up the house, getting it just like we wanted. And after a while, Sheila ran me out of the house. She said she'd rather work in there and get things straight on her own. I'd be more help outside. So I went outside. I got my daddy's old machete. Y'all know what a machete is? A great big old long knife that's good for chopping down weeds and things. And I got to work down along the creek trying to get rid of the invasive species. That's different kinds of plants that are growing there that aren't supposed to be there. Ones that have come from other places like Japanese honeysuckle and Chinese privet, things like that. So I spent the morning down there chopping, had a little bit of lunch, then went back again in the afternoon, chopping, raking, cleaning, making that yard look pretty. And then I heard a voice from the porch. "Terrell, time for supper." It was Sheila calling me to supper. I put down my tools. Well, I still had my machete in my hand, walked up those steps into that front door and realized I had the machete, so I just kind of set it down in the corner so we could have our supper. I thought I might get outside for a little after supper, but didn't ever get around to it. Well, later that night, we went to bed. I want to tell you something. If you've never gone to sleep way out in Chubbtown, the edge of Booger Holler, way down in the southern part of Georgia, on a new moon night, when there's no light in the sky, I mean, it was so dark when we turned out that lamp by the bed that you could not see your hand in front of your face, but you could hear things. Outside, every now and then, we'd hear a barred owl. Woo-hoo, 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 woo-hoo. And sometimes we'd hear some screech owls. They make little whinnying sounds, kind of like a horse. And we hear crickets. And every now and then, we could hear a big old transfer truck maybe over on Highway 27, several miles away, but we could hear a little truck. So that was a human sound we had every now and then. And a few birds twittering around. Oh, we had all the windows open, and we were sleeping good. Oh, man, I was sleeping so good my first night in that beautiful little cabin. I don't know what I was dreaming, but all of a sudden, something started poking me in the shoulder. "Terrell, wake up. Terrell, wake up." "Huh? What is it?" "There's somebody on the porch." That was my wife whispering in my ear. "There's somebody on the porch." My heart started beating so hard. If there had been somebody on the porch, I'm not sure I would have heard them. But in a little bit, my heart began to calm down, and I listened, and I listened. And she was right. But she was also wrong. She was right. There was somebody there. I figured it was probably an axe murderer. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? We're going to get murdered right here. But worse than that, she was wrong about where he was, 'cause I could tell he was right there in the room with us. Oh, I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. Here I was supposed to be the man. I didn't have a weapon of any kind. I didn't know what I could do to protect my sweet little wife. Here this murderer was right there in the room with us. He was going to kill us right there in our bed. Probably had a big axe ready to murder us right now. Oh no, what am I going to do? And that's when I remembered. Do y'all remember when I came in, what I had in my hand? my daddy's old army surplus machete. And it was over there in the corner just a few feet away. So I thought, now what can I do? Oh, what can I do? I thought maybe I could just sneak one hand out from under the covers and grab the edge of the covers. And I could sneak the other hand up to the switch on that lamp next to the bed. And maybe I could switch on the light, throw off the covers, jump out of the bed, grab that machete and get to him before he got to me. That's what I need to do. That's what I need to do. I need to sneak this hand out from under the cover, grab the covers, grab the lamp, switch, throw off the covers, jump out of bed, grab the machine. That's what I'll do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it now. And I did it. Threw off the covers, switched on the light, jumped out of bed, and the axe murderer ran out from under the bed between my legs and across the room. The axe murderer was a baby possum. I grabbed a broom and chased him around one side of the bed. Sheila got a bed on the other side. She grabbed a mop. We were chasing him this way. We'd chase him that way. We'd chase him this way. He ducked under the bed out the other side and through that little bitty door into the room where the water heater was and then into the kitchen with us right behind him. And the only light was that light beside the bed, so we couldn't see well in there, but we saw enough to see him slink right behind the kitchen stove. Now, it was just an ordinary old kitchen stove, an electric stove with 4 eyes on top, white enamel, with a big old oven on the front, and then down there below the oven was a drawer, a great big old drawer that we kept pots and pans in. Y'all have seen old stoves like that, haven't you? Yeah, you've seen those. And he was behind it. But we couldn't see much. There wasn't a good light in there. The only light that there was, if we turned it on, was a great big old bright single bulb that hung down right in the middle there. I knew that wouldn't do. I said, Sheila, you wait right here. I gave her my broom. I said, if he comes out, I cracked open the back door. There was a little door off the side that went outside. I said, crack that door open. I said, if he comes out from behind there, you shoo him out that door. I'm going to go into the other room and get a flashlight so I can shine it back behind there and see him. So I walked into the other room, walked across to that cabinet where the flashlight was, opened the door, got that flashlight, and was turning around when my heart froze. Oh no, there really is an axe murderer. He's in there now. He's after my poor little wife. It wasn't just a possum. I went running in there with that flashlight. I'll get him. I was going to cronk him right over the head. And when I went into that kitchen and shined my light into it, I saw the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. There was my wife down on the floor. See, here's what happened. While I was gone, my wife got to thinking about that possum and she thought, well, there's not really a back to the stove. So if I were to get down on the floor and pull out that drawer with the pots and pans, the bread basket and all in it, I could look over that drawer, back behind it, and see that possum back there. And maybe I could poke at him through there with a broomstick or something and get him to come out. That's what she was thinking. So she got way down on the floor and pulled that drawer out all the time, looking over the drawer so she could see what was behind it. But what she hadn't counted on was the possum wasn't behind the drawer. The possum was in the drawer. So when she pulled the drawer out, she just pulled that possum out and they were nose to nose. I don't know which one of them was more scared, whether it was Sheila or that possum. Sheila was going, ah, 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 and that possum was going, shh, 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 shh. You've never seen the like. I want to tell you something. I'm an outdoor educator, so I know some of these things. The Virginia opossum has more teeth teeth than any other North American mammal. And that little possum was showing every one of them. It was hissing and she was a screaming. And then I did. Well, just ask your daddy what any one of the red-blooded American fellas would do in a case like that with his wife nose to nose with a possum. I went back into that other room and I came back with my Minolta camera and I took a picture and I got it right here. Now I got to tell you, Sheila, by the time I gotten back, she had gotten up and gotten out of Dodge and gotten away from there. That baby possum was still there, and here's a picture of him. Can you see the bread basket here? And that little possum looking up? I wish he'd had his teeth, his mouth open when I took the picture so I could show you those teeth, because he had a lot of them. But that little baby possum was right there inside that bread basket, inside the drawer of our stove. Oh my goodness. Well, we managed to shoo him out of that drawer and out the door, and he was gone. And we breathed a sigh of relief and closed the door, turned out the light, and went back to bed. But that's not the end of the story. You stay tuned for part 2 and learn the rest of the story.